Hi, I'm Kathleen Hamilton, and I'm from KathleenHamiltonMemoir.com. I'm the creator of a Deeper Truth memoir programs in which I help women to find their truth, free their voice, and finish their books. So today is day 3 of the 12 Gifts of Memoir. And I've been having a hard time getting online. I'm in the middle of a big snowstorm here in PEI, and I don't know if that has something to do with it, but here we are going ahead. Hey, hi, Jude, and hi, Christina. Oh, Christina. uh, so, yesterday I talked about the gift of validation and the transformation that I've seen happen for my students and clients when their deeper truth is validated, first by a mentor and a sisterhood of writers who are on the same journey, and then later after a publication when this writer's story is validated by her readers. And we talked about how we all have this profound human need for our truth and our story to be validated by others. And on day 1, I talked about the gift of being heard and understood and liked. And so if you haven't seen those first 2 videos, I invite you to watch them on my page. They're there as a replay. Okay, so what we're talking about here, just to be clear, the gifts that I'm talking about are not the gifts to the reader. There are many gifts to the reader. It's why we all love memoir. We love to read memoir. But I'm talking here specifically in this series about the gifts to those who write memoir. There are beautiful, exquisite, surprising rewards that come to those of us who write memoir. And they're not necessarily the reasons why we write memoir. I think that oftentimes these gifts are kind of unexpected, but they just, they come to us. We have a strong calling, an inner need to write memoir, and we have our strong reasons why. And then along the journey, we receive these gifts. And so I'm sharing this from my perspective as someone who writes memoir. That's my favorite genre to write in. I'm a published author and screenwriter, poet, playwright. But memoir is my great love. And partly because I'm kind of hooked on these gifts, I'm passionate about writing memoir, reading memoir, and helping women to write their own memoirs. I kind of think of it as being the healthiest addiction ever. And yeah, and so my perspective is greatly informed by what I see happening for the people that I'm mentoring and coaching to write their own deeper truth stories. Thank you, Christina. You're very sweet. So I'm offering these 12 gifts of memoir to my community, partly because I'm really basking in the glow of my new book being birthed into the world. So this is a collection of memoir by 12 women and myself, who I've had the honor of mentoring in my programs, and to help them get their stories publisher ready. And so to the point where this collection was has been published by a traditional publishing house, the Acorn Press, which is a small and Canadian-owned, super high quality publishing house. I couldn't be more proud of this book and the 12 writers and myself whose stories are inside. yeah, so like I'm saying, I'm kind of basking in the glow of this, feeling very filled up, and so wanting to share some of the gifts that we're receiving in return for the hard work of writing those stories. Um, so research shows that 3 out of 5 people want to write a book, but most never do. And chances are, if you have a story to tell, you're meeting up with obstacles, like reasons why you're putting off getting started, or maybe you've gotten started, but now there are obstacles that are in the way that are keeping you from moving forward or keeping you stuck. And most of these obstacles are internal. Most of them are here. So in the 12 Gifts of Memoir, I am encouraging you to write anyway. And my intention is that the promise of these gifts will help to incentivize you and to reassure you that it will be oh so worth it for you to write your story because of the results and the benefits and the gifts that will be yours when you write a deeper truth memoir. Okay, so here's the third gift of memoir. To me, this gift is the holy grail of memoir. It's the big why behind why I mentor women to write their truth. If you wouldn't mind, type in the comments if you're ready to know what this gift is, the gift that I consider to be the Holy Grail. So I am actually on a mission to empower women to speak up and be heard, and I'm doing it one memoir at a time. So yes, the third gift of memoir is empowerment. So this is my philosophy. You may have heard that the Dalai Lama has famously said that the world will be saved by the Western woman. Well, I believe that the world will be saved by the Western woman who speaks up. And we start by telling the truth about our lives. That's my philosophy. That's my belief. To me, it's that simple and that important. So I'm putting a stake in the ground for women to become fully empowered by using their voices and writing their deeper truth. So let's just unpack that for a minute and talk about what it means to become empowered. And this is what I've learned, in my experience of working with women as a writing coach. I started coaching about 18 years ago. So I've coached several dozen women to write their deeper truth stories. And some have even performed them as monologues on the stage. How empowering is that? And my work has evolved over time. And so now I'm offering 3 different programs for writers at different stages of their work, kind of beginning, middle, and end. So I'm including a 9-month program where you're supported to write your complete first draft to the point where it's ready for a developmental edit. And I have a 12-month program that is for getting your work ready for a publisher, like that, the last stretch. And I also have an intro program where you can learn to write without traumatizing yourself, learn to write about your past without re-traumatizing yourself, and how to deal with your inner critics. There's more than one. And basically free your voice. So in the scope of all of, that type of work, what I've seen over the years, what I've seen happen for women is that when they own their story, they become empowered to own their lives. So own your story, own your life. That's a huge shift. It's a huge transformation. And it's a huge transformation that occurs inside you. Hey, Arisha, hi. I'm so glad you're here. Arisha is one of the 13 writers in this book. She is fabulous. She has been published a number of times. And Arisha, I hope you can stay with me. So I'm talking about empowerment, the empowerment that occurs as a result of writing memoir. And so what I'm saying is that there's this internal shift that takes place, an internal transformation, and what happens is the outside world responds to that change in you. So as a writer becomes empowered through the process of finding her story and freeing her voice and writing her truth and being witnessed and validated, she begins to show up more powerfully in her life. So she starts making choices that are more aligned with her true values. And, think about what kind of improvement that causes that could cause in your life, like in your relationships, in your family, in your career, your work choices, in your community, like how you show up more powerfully in the world. So I've seen women gain the confidence to change careers, to go for promotions, to, suddenly have people offer new opportunities that she hadn't even imagined for herself. The world kind of readjusts in response to her new self, in response to her empowerment, in response to her showing up more powerfully in the world, standing in her truth. And she starts very gracefully, changing things in her life to reflect who she is and what she wants. I would love it if you would type in the comments if this is making sense to you, if it's landing for you, if I'm explaining this well. Because I think it makes sense that this would happen, right? Does that make sense to you that this would happen? I'll tell you, it's a very beautiful thing to witness, to see a woman own her truth and stop conforming and stop playing small and just show up as the powerful being that she is. And I just want to tell you a little story too. So one of the writers who has 3 stories in this new anthology, and by the way, so as editor of this book, I will receive royalties of 5% after all of the expenses are paid. So, in other words, never. But I still really want you to get this book and read it, because I think that you will love these stories and love these writers and be inspired by them. Right. So one of the writers in this book, I'm working with her now. We're continuing on to write her full-length book, like a full-length manuscript. And we were talking the other day, and she told me that she's transferring to a new department at her company because she was feeling very unsupported there, and she wants a better experience for herself. And so she's not settling, in other words. She's not like making the best of things. She's not just going along to get along anymore as she would have in the past. And she's just not available for that in her life anymore, because she's owning her life now. Now that she's owned her story, she's owning her life. And she says, she's just come right out and said to me, it's this transformation in her, this sort of shift in her perspective has come about as a result of writing her story. So writing her story is changing and empowering her. And I've seen it dozens of times. It's kind of magic, this gift of empowerment that comes as a result of writing memoir. And I work mostly with women, and so I'm going to be using the feminine pronoun as I go along. And I know that there are a few men who have been joining in and watching and learning from this series so far. And I just want to say, like, you're totally welcome here. It's perfectly fine. It's kind of like, sometimes I read men's magazines. I get a lot out of them. I like to know what's going on. I like to know how you're thinking about things. And so, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, what I like to think about too is like the ripple effect. Like the ripple effect, if one woman is empowered, if she shows up more powerfully in her life, if she's taking a stand for her truth, she's freed her voice, what's the ripple effect on her family and her her co-workers and her community, the people that she meets and engages with every day? So that's the ripple effect that I believe the Dalai Lama was talking about when he said that the Western woman would save the world. And my modification is the world will be saved by the Western woman who speaks up, who frees her voice and owns her story. So yeah, I feel like this is perhaps the most profound gift. It's the one that really has catalyzed me to do my work, because I just take that big stand for women's empowerment. But on an individual basis, on an individual level, the gift of memoir is who you become in the process of writing. And you become, as I said, more fully empowered, able to show up more powerfully in your life, use your voice. And yeah, Christina, getting out of your comfort zone, because everything worth having is outside your comfort zone, right? And we don't live in a culture that values the truth. We live in a culture that has that gives us lots of messages to keep quiet. And I have a workshop that I teach sometimes. It's called The Life-Changing Magic of Memoir. And I call it magic because I do really feel like there's a magic that occurs in writing memoir, because it has that power to change consciousness in both the writer and the reader. And I also think of it as magic because I don't really know all the reasons why. Like, why does it have this great power to create this ability to create empowerment? So I don't know all of the reasons, but I do know some of them. And so here's one of the reasons why writing memoir is so uh, empowering. So before you start writing your life, like, and this goes for everyone, like, I kind of think everyone interesting has a past. So, your life is kind of like this big jumble. It's all tangled up mess, chaos of like all these events that happened, and places and people, and uh, in the middle of all of that is you in this kind of like jumble of confusion. And not to mention, your secrets and your shames and your woundedness, and other people's voices, the voices of the culture, all that noise from the culture, like the shh, 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 nice girls don't talk like that. Don't mention sweat. Don't mention menstrual blood. Don't ask what your grandfather does on his business trips. Don't laugh so loud. Don't sound angry. You sound angry. Keep your voice down. Don't tell. Don't tell. Don't tell. Right? So we're just kind of like swimming around in all of that. And, honestly, it's a wonder we get out of bed in the morning. But when you write memoir, you get to shape your story. You get to tell it your way. You get to choose the themes, and you get to choose the events that are meaningful to you. Those turning points after which nothing was the same, those shimmering images that have stayed with you your entire life, that thing from when you were 4, you don't even know what happened before, and you don't even know what happened afterwards, but there's this image. You get to work with those. You get to choose. And so you choose the events that are meaningful to you. You get to place whatever emphasis on them you want. You get to fully follow and complete your thoughts. No one gets to interrupt you. You get to follow it all the way through to the end and find out where it takes you and what you really, really think about it. Right? So you get to add your reflections and your musings, exactly what you think about the events that occurred, your interpretation of events. And you also get to go back into the character of who you were at the time that the events happened, and write exactly and in as much detail as you want, what you were thinking and feeling at the time, like how this was affecting you at the time that it was happening, who you were then. And so it's kind of like, it's like you're writing your version your way. And the only contract that you have, the only contract you have is with the reader to tell the truth. That's it. So much freedom. Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you this. If you go, I have a new website, and if you go to KathleenHamiltonMemoir.com, there's you can sign up for my free guide, and it outlines the 3 secrets to writing a memoir that creates instant connection with your reader. And it's free. So, and it will help you to kind of to understand what I mean by a deeper truth memoir, because yes, your contract with the reader is to tell the truth and only the truth. So if you speculate about things, you have to say that you're speculating. So if you're imagining something, you have to say you're imagining. But if you coach with me, then my direction is to write the deeper truth. And this guide that I just told you about kind of outlines the blueprint of what it takes to write a deeper truth memoir. because that's where the real magic is. So anyway, so let's just to go back to why writing memoir is so empowering. So like I said, you get to add your musings and your reflections, and good memoir really, like unless it's a childhood memoir, good memoir really lives and dies on the quality of the reflections. So you are not only allowed to give your interpretation of things, your thoughts about things, you're you're kind of needed to, and the reader wants to know your perspective, so you get to give it, and your perspective is unique. Like nobody else in the world has your perspective, and that's why your story is valuable. Yeah, so the beauty of it kind of is like if you were imagining that you get to, like as if you were directing a film, you get to decide what parts of the story you're gonna, zoom in on really up close and slow down and take your time with and really examine. And then what parts you're gonna like, really widen out and show the bigger world in the context of the bigger world. So yeah, that is you making meaning of your story. That's the artist's job. And with memoir, we're creating literary art. The artist's job is to make meaning. Well, if you're a memoirist, you get to make meaning from your life. So that's the empowerment. So I just kind of think, it's no wonder that I've seen my students, my clients, my writers make such big leaps in their lives, in terms of their, sometimes they're small shifts, but they have a huge result. In terms of the rest of their lives, because when you own your story, you own your life, and that changes everything. Even down to, in some cases, where the person chooses to live. So for me, one of the signs of my personal empowerment in the last several months really is that I was able to take a trip to Europe by myself. And I know that some people travel by themselves all the time, but I had never done that before. I always kind of admired women who would travel by themselves, but I had never done it before, and I never thought that I would ever have, I don't know, the courage, I guess, to do it, or just to give myself permission to do something that I really wanted to do in that way. So yeah, so I went to Italy by myself to meet up with a new mentor and a very small group of women that I'd never met before. And then I went on the second leg of my trip to Greece, completely by myself, not knowing the language, not knowing anyone, not meeting up with anyone that I knew, nothing, just completely on my own. And that was an amazing adventure to experience with myself. And, I know that I would never have done that prior to this journey I've been on in writing my story. I know that I would have needed to go with my husband or with a friend. I think, I don't know, I think part of what it is for me is like, in the process of writing memoir, I've come to know myself so much better and trust myself. And yeah, I think that's empowerment. And oh, by the way, and then on that trip to Greece, I found this, like I found my way to this just gorgeous, unspoiled Greek island. It's this completely secluded paradise where I'm planning to host a writing retreat. Okay, and that reminds me too, if whether you're on the replay, watching the replay, or you're with me here live. Oh, Veronica. Oh my gosh. Veronica was with me in Italy. Hi, Veronica. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, so, right. So if you go to my website, KathleenHamiltonMemoir.com, you can sign up for that free guide that I told you about, but you'll also be on my list. And that way you will hear about upcoming opportunities to, to do workshops or come on a retreat. And people do tell me that they love my emails, but if for some reason you don't, you can always unsubscribe. No, like, we'll still be friends. It's only email. Alrighty, so I think that that's mostly what I wanted to share with you today about the gift of empowerment. Like, when you write a Deeper Truth memoir, you get the gift of empowerment. And, if you just think about it, if you write the truth about something meaningful in your life, you read that aloud in a supportive group of writers who are also up to the same thing, or you publish your story so that it can be shared with readers. How empowering would that be? It is. It just is. So that's the third gift of memoir, as I see it, is empowerment. And as I said, for me, that's kind of the holy grail. That's what I take a stand for in the world, is women's empowerment. And I believe it happens by telling the truth about our lives, and being able to stand in the truth and not run away. And yeah, so I know I can't actually just give you these gifts that I'm talking about. They come through the process of writing memoir, but I can show you where they are, and I can guide you to get there. Yeah. So I just want to say goodbye for now. I'll see you tomorrow for Elaine is here too. Hello, Elaine. And thank you, Ronnie. Thanks for saying it's inspirational. Yeah, that's my intention with these, by discussing with you these gifts, is to encourage you, because I know that the work can sometimes be hard. It's so worth it. Yes, Veronica and Elaine, it's so sweet to have you here. I just was talking a little bit about going to Italy and transformations together and being validated. Yeah. Yeah, what I want to say is I'll see you tomorrow for the fourth gift of memoir. Truth and beauty, especially yours. I'll see you next time.